Okay, so we might get started and kick off today, as I said, for our final BT wrap migration readiness check-in session today. For those who've joined in the last couple of minutes, my name's Tim Rogers. I'm Head of Advisor Migration at BT. Look forward to the next 30 minutes or so taking you through just some key points to check in on to make sure you're as prepared as you can possibly be in the lead up to our fourth and final tranche for BT wrap to Panorama coming up on the 19th and 20th of June, the weekend 19th and 20th. Today we're going to run through just some key points, and we'll just jump to the next slide. Thanks, Matt. We're going to run through, as I said, just preparing some key things to consider and think of, our good learnings from previous tranches that we've done, areas of focus for you to be aware of, and then also just outline the support that's available to you in terms of those support channels, so the ways in which where you can go for information, both electronic and obviously personal information, and how you can get that. And then we're going to answer our questions. Hopefully we'll answer a lot of them as we go through the session in terms of the information presented, but for your migration specific questions, if you can pop them in the Q&A box down in the bottom right hand corner, that would be great, and we'll work through those at the end. I'm joined by Gary Burford today, who'll be familiar to many of you with his role across the business in migration, and it'll just be Gary and myself today handling those questions as we go. So we might just jump straight into it, I think, Matt, and kick into preparation for tranche 4 migration. Next slide, please. So one of the key things to focus on is the transaction freeze period. So what we've put in here is the actual dates, and you can see that that they start from this Thursday. And the key things to be aware of is just to be on top of those particular transactions that are important for you to get done ahead of the lockdown on wrap. And the reason why these things get locked down and wrap is as late as possible, as we can do it, is to facilitate obviously the ability to migrate over the weekend without having any transactions in flight through that period of time. So planning your clients' transactions to occur in advance of these freeze periods are good to avoid them having any issues there. And certainly if there's anything that needs to occur post, it's not urgent that it's done beforehand, then defer that, and that can be done on Panorama with respect to that. So we'll just look at the main ones. Obviously, the main ones that we've seen before in terms of importance are the ability to get online cash transactions. So that's 2 days. That's next Wednesday, the 16th of June, 4:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. And trading, so listed securities transactions for 3 days. So that's 4 p.m. on Tuesday, the 15th of June. So if you're doing any trades, etc., on the Tuesday, you're having trouble with it, with the desktop, in whatever way, shape or form, and you want to make sure, jump on the phone if you need to, if you can't get them done via the desktop, but it'll all be fine through to 4 p.m. Tuesday, 15th of June. And the managed funds transactions, because of the additional time and term deposits additional time required, then that is this Thursday, 11 a.m. So that's 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time this Thursday. Okay. All right. So transaction freezes, really important to be across those and aware of those. The next thing is the actual client list. So you'll find on the wrap desktop your migration client list, and it's accessible under key alerts. And you can see the report there just on the left-hand side of your screen of that wrap desktop snapshot, migration client list. Now, the key for this one, what this did identify was all of those of your wrap clients that were going to be migrated in a particular tranche. The key, obviously, for this one being the fourth and final, is that any clients that you have remaining on wrap will be migrated in the fourth tranche, which is the 19th and 20th of June. So all of those clients that will be on that list will be your wrap clients. The other important list, if you like, to access is the client portal. Just jumping to the next slide. Thanks, Matt. So what you can do here is you can actually access this. There's the little tile you can see on the left-hand side. You'll find that on the wrap desktop. If you click on that fellow in the pink shirt, it'll take you through to this client portal. And what the client portal will enable you to do is download the fee favourability assessment. So what we've done there is point in time showing you the current fees, total fees that that your client is on, in particular wrap badges and prices, and then showing you what it would look like in terms of what the fee would be on Panorama with its open and transparent pricing, and then the assessments made which one they're better off on, and that will be how they're migrated. So if they're better off on their current fee structure, then they'll migrate and retain that legacy pricing. And if they're better off on the current Panorama open pricing, then I'll migrate to that new open pricing. Okay, so this will give you that list and enable you to identify early on those of your clients and which price they'll be migrating to, their existing or the new pricing as well. One important note for this one is have a look at this with respect to your fee aggregation for family fee aggregation with up to 8 accounts. In order to aggregate client accounts, they will need to be on all of them on the BT open pricing. So if you've got a couple that are staying on the legacy pricing because that's better for them individually, you may look to do fee aggregation post migration on Panorama. And whilst the individual may pay more, the total aggregate across the whole group will end up with them being better off. So just important to have a look at that post migration with the fee aggregation benefits available on Panorama. Okay, just jumping to next slide. The weekend that is. So what does the 19th and 20th of June look like for you in terms of the migration weekend? And effectively in the lead up, we've talked about the transaction freezes. That's the key point to take into account over the coming days as to making sure any transactions in those relevant groupings you need to get through are done. Then wrap will go offline on Friday, the 18th of June. At this stage, that's scheduled for 6 p.m, but if it needs to be earlier, then we'll certainly give you advance notice of that. And you'll be able to see that in terms of on the wrap desktop. So on Friday, wrap goes down and we take that offline. And then over the Saturday and Sunday, we work through the migration. So the migration is effectively a transition of electronic transition of data where it's extracted, transferred from wrap and across to Panorama, loaded into Panorama and accounts created. We have a various number of stage gates along the way, check-in points, etc. And as you can imagine, with the huge amount of data that moves across, personal data plus transaction data, accounts are established, all of the back-end work done with managed fund providers, registries, ASX, etc. So all of that's done over the course of that 48 hours through Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. And then also there will be an outage for the Panorama desktop or the UI user interface on the Monday. Expectation that will occur to finalize all of these data transfers going across. But all of that communication will come out to you on the Monday. So Monday morning, we'll shoot communications through to you and all your dealer groups as well with respect to the success of the migration and any other information that you need to be aware of that's occurred over that weekend. And then once that's actually done, we give you advance notice of that. And then later in the week, from the Tuesday, the 22nd, is scheduled at this stage, that we will then start to communicate out in terms of the registration emails through to clients for their Panorama accounts from that, typically from that Tuesday. But certainly the Monday, preparation for you, heads up that it's all gone through. If you wanted to, one thing that a number of groups have done well, or have done that's worked well for them in the previous tranches, has been to have a template ready to go out to their clients on the Monday, and they've emailed from their practices to those affected clients to say that, give them an update that this has all gone well and you should expect an email from BT over the coming few days, which will contain your registration details. And any queries they've got re-registration, best to direct them to BT for those queries, but anything with respect obviously to their own situation, personal portfolio, advice needs to you, but certainly you can divert the volume of technical queries if they've got any challenges around registration, etc., through to us and we can handle them for you. So just a reminder to access the support materials online. For example, there's a template for that type of email communication on our BT Panorama Migration Hub website, which you can have a look through and absolutely get access to those, use those if you wish, and also all the other support materials that will flow through. And then on the Thursday at this stage of that migration week, the 24th of June, we have a webinar scheduled, our final webinar, just to run through any things that have occurred as a result of the tranche 4, the final tranche, and answer any questions that anyone may have with respect to that. So that's in effect what the migration weekend and the lead up will look like for that. Okay, so just jumping ahead to the next slide. Data feeds. So data feeds are really, really critical, and following the migration weekend, we will actually, as part of this, have been working in the back end with an array of financial planning and accounting software providers to facilitate BT Wrap and BT Panorama data feeds through to you, the users on Panorama. So that's all done and connected in the back end, and that'll flow through. So they will, each accounting and financial planning provider will manage their own processes with respect to that, but certainly we'll be able to communicate that's been successful on the Monday. And then we anticipate, depending on the provider and how quickly they go through their side of it, in terms of flowing that data through from their systems out to you, available within the first week. Tranche 3 that we just recently did in May was our largest tranche, with some 63,000 accounts moving across. And they were all flowing through within that first week through to explain providers, etc., with those various class and accounting and FP software providers. So data feeds will flow through. As I said, if there's any issues at the back end of that, we will manage that with the providers themselves. There's nothing for you to do, and then that'll come through to you guys in terms of flowing through at some stage during that first week, starting from the Tuesday, is typically our experience from previous migrations. Okay, if you've got any issues with the data feed, if it's not coming through, if it hasn't come through by the end of the week, then absolutely contact. First port of call would be your provider, so EFP or accounting software provider, just to make sure that everything's gone through with them, and it's not something to do with the pipe, if you like, from them through to you. But if there's a bigger issue, we will absolutely be across that in terms of a systemic problem. So if you don't hear from us, then you can presume that that's all flowed through nicely. Okay, so that's data feeds covered off. That's the migration covered off. Now let's look at some key call outs. So some of the key call outs for tranche 4 we want to talk about are some of the things that we've identified from experience from the previous tranches, and working through some of these things to make sure that any interruptions for tranche 4 are eliminated or minimal at best, and we can work on that. So teams are working hard behind the scenes, as you can imagine, in preparation for this tranche, and incorporating those learnings from the previous tranches as we've gone. So some of those challenges that we've had is obviously an outage. So with respect to the outage, what we'll identify there, as we said, is on the Monday, you can expect that there will be an outage in terms of no ability to use the Panorama desktop for that Monday. And what we ask is that you plan for that to be for the day, for the Monday. Now we may well be able to get that up and running earlier, but to do all the final systems checks and reconciliations, we do require that day to make sure that everything that's come across is as it should be. So preparation again for that would be certainly advisable, and people were able to do that for tranche 3, with that being out for the Monday. Okay. Outstanding data uplift. So many of you would have been involved, engaged with us in terms of providing that data through to us to get the client account set up on Panorama. There's a couple of reasons for that. Part of it is checking the data quality of that which sits on RAP, some of which has been there for quite some time. But these accounts have long tenure on the platform of RAP. having been established many, many years ago. Many of them have been established pre-AML requirements, for example, and also the information that was required by RAP as a system was far less than the contemporary platforms such as Panorama. A good case in point there is with respect to more complex entities like trusts and super funds, self-managed super funds and structures such as that, where there's a lot of information, a lot of layers of information. So there's the entity itself, the name of the entity being a super fund, for example. Then there's the corporate trustee, then there's the directors of that trustee, then there's the primary contacts, and all of those people, all of those key people or key entities need to be identified, and we've done a lot of work with you in order to try and prep that for you, and then asked you to fill the missing gaps, if you like, to move that across. So we have been able to be pretty good in terms of getting all of that information across. If there's any that's still outstanding, that may cause an issue for you with a particular account, but we're working individually with you to try and head that off as being a bit of a problem. But if you do have any of those, certainly just have a check for that when you're looking through on the Tuesday when you log into Panorama and looking through your client accounts. Have a look through those. At the actual time of migration, that information is all automatically brought across, that which we have, and there is situations where, as I said, with AML data, that if we haven't got it, that we may not be able to do some of the functionality with respect to your particular client's account. And that could be, for example, payments out from an account, because we obviously need to AML identify as part of our regulatory requirement all clients and all accounts before we can pay monies out. So if you run into any of those issues, again, give us a call and we'll be able to resolve that by getting the necessary data over the phone from your clients with respect to that. F-code mapping. So many of you would be aware, obviously, with F-codes, with RAP, every different badge of RAP that we had, you had a separate F-code or identifier that you used to use for your clients in that particular badge. And what we've done is preparation for migration is work with you to map those to your Panorama ID, advisor ID. That's really, really critically important because that ensures client visibility on Panorama for you is maintained with obviously the correct advisor and the correct clients within your practice. Particularly important for those of you with multi-advisor practices, making sure that the right clients are sitting in the right groups, and those of you that have set up advisor groups where you have various permissions across the different people in your teams, paraplanners and client service managers, etc., to be able to view those clients and do the work with them on Panorama. It's very flexible in terms of the way that's structured. But again, with that F-code mapping and with your visibility of those clients, as you're looking through those, if you have any issues with respect to that, if you find that you're unable to see certain clients or need certain clients mapped to a different advisor within your practice because they've gone to Jane and should have gone to Gary, for example, then just contact your BDM or call our customer relations team and we'll be able to facilitate those transfers for you as timely as possible. Okay, Centrelink schedules, a little bit different in terms of the way Centrelink schedules are generated and managed with respect to Panorama versus RAP, but it will be a Centrelink schedule generated and that'll be available on Panorama and that'll be uploaded in the weeks flowing post that weekend of 19th and 20th of June. The key call out here is there's nothing that you need to do for Centrelink or DBA. It's all being done in the back end electronically. It's a continuation of accounts, so any grandfathered accounts, for example, with Centrelink, excuse me, you don't need to do anything. That continues on. It's deemed the same pension. It's not a new pension start, and they're fully aware of it. We've done a lot of work with them over a number of preceding months and years, in fact, in getting this organised. So you can order schedules, Centrelink schedules. You can certainly get access to it. You've got the historical ones with RAP. They'll be brought across in terms of our Centrelink schedule brought across, so you have access to that through the document library on Pano. But again, just saying there's nothing that you need to do. There's nothing that your clients need to do at all in this space. That's all taken care of. Performance history. So we're scheduled to get all the performance history, and this is something that we're doing in this migration, which typically is not a requirement of migrations, and certainly in previous migrations I've been involved with has not been done. But we did invest the time and dollars in this process to make sure that historical performance data does come across, and we're bringing that across, we're loading it, we're checking it all to make sure it's accurate, and providing that that history on Panorama for those migrated accounts, which is great because that means you don't have to have two different sources to look through pre-migration and post-migration track record for your clients' portfolios. So it's good that we're being able to build that functionality in and get that data across. The downside of that is it doesn't happen straight away on the weekend. So we're looking at this point at mid-July, certainly for getting those tranche 3 and tranche 4 performance history data sets across and visible on the Panorama UI. But we'll keep you up to date with respect to that. But we will get that loaded, as I said, individually loaded and checked, so that you know what it's there. It'll be accurate with respect to that historical performance. So bear with us on that one, and we will get that to you as soon as possible. Panorama data for Westpac clients. So in line with Westpac's data policy, and this is for those clients that are not only wrap clients when they come across, but they might also have a Westpac bank account or check account or some other Westpac product. So in line with the Westpac's data policy, when we've migrated the wrap accounts across, if they do hold those Westpac products, then data is sourced from both wrap and also Westpac source systems, okay? And that's what will be displayed on Panorama. What you'll see, therefore, is some information, for example, on the Panorama account that may not have been present in wrap. So mobiles and emails, for example, will come across as you've got them on wrap. But if there's a secondary and different email or mobile reflected in the Westpac source systems from the when they've given that data for their Westpac accounts or whatever product they have with Westpac, then that will appear as a secondary mobile and secondary email on the Panorama account as that flows through as well. But certainly can confirm that all of the wrap data that's come across that we've got and that you've provided to us, we've got that across and moving that into their Panorama account. So it's only for those of your clients, and sometimes you don't, not everybody knows, not everybody shares that they might have had a Westpac account many, many years ago. It might be historical, but if they have had that, it'll be in the Westpac source data systems. And so you may see some additional information on the Panorama account that you hadn't otherwise put in there. That's where that's come from, if we can explain that. If that data needs to be updated, then typically with the Westpac data, the clients need to do that through Westpac, which is fine. But obviously advisors can update their Panorama details as per the usual processes that you would run through with those. Complex entities, I just touched on those before with respect to outstanding data uplift. Complex entities are the one area where we have had challenges in the past. And for those of you who may have had clients withdrawn and excluded from previous tranche 2 or tranche 3, typically this has been the space where we've had some challenges getting all of the various levels of data to mesh and to create that positive experience, first experience for the account on Panorama. So where we haven't been able to do that in the past, and we basically excluded that mid-migration weekend. That won't be happening this weekend because we've obviously got to work through all of these. So the complex structures with the varying relationships and lots of different data needs need to be mapped and ensure they're set up correctly. So if you do look at those, probably a good starting point to check those on Panorama when they come across on that first day post-migration, so the Tuesday when the Panorama desktop comes up. But we'll obviously be spending a lot of time with these entities individually, and if we need to, there might be some data that you might not be able to see initially as it takes further time to get that across. But if you've got any challenges, any issues with those as you see it, and if we identify it, please give us a call, let us know, and we'll manage that for you as quickly as we can. End of financial year contributions. So just a reminder that as contributions are coming in, we're redirecting into wrap, for example, that would typically come in. Obviously, there's a 9 or 10 day window between the end of between this migration and the end of financial year. So we're consciously aware of making sure that you have access to be able to make those end of financial year transactions that that you may need to do. And typically, there are final contributions for the year. Any deposits that are coming in to the wrap credentials, they are being mapped across to Panorama for a period of 12 months. So we will ask, across the next 12 months that you do update those redirected, or sorry, those auto deposits, employer contribution deposits, etc. And there's methodologies to do that, but certainly in the interim, as I said, for that 12-month period, they'll be redirected. So the redirects include items such as SuperStream, BPay, and direct credit to cash account, BSB, and account numbers. Rollovers and checks that are coming through are manual processes, so we will simply re-index those to the migrated accounts, so that's okay. Anything where money's being pushed into the wrap account, we can redirect that. Where money was being pulled from, so direct debits out, they won't be reset on Panorama, so you'll need to re-establish those direct debits if you're looking for those to go across. And a key one there to keep in mind is the recurring rollovers that you might have for insurance premiums, be that monthly, quarterly, annually, that you have partial rollovers to fund external insurance policies. So an important one for you to check on there. But certainly all of the end of financial year transactions that are going to be required, we'll make sure you have visibility, access, and the ability to do that on Panorama going forward from the 22nd of June through to the end of financial year. So they're the key call-outs that we'd suggest. Just a bit of a ready reckoner and a tips and traps list, if you like, of things that we've learned from the previous tranches, working through that with some of you, who this will be the final tranche for you, or for some of you, this may be the first and only tranche. So whichever cohort you fit yourself into, that's certainly where we think is a good idea to start in terms of looking through some of those. Okay, so we'll just jump on to the next slide. And this is really, again, to support that tips and traps. What we've built and evolved, and this has been live and evolving through the course of migration, with feedback from various advisors and practices as to what's practical and what needed to be done in their practices. So we've built this migration checklist, and we really do recommend that you go into the documents and download section of the migration hub. The address there, bt.com.au/panorama migration. So if you go into there, into documents and downloads, you'll find this. And it's a great ready reckoner for all of the things that you need to tick off in the lead up to migration, and then all of those things, such as I talked about with the redirects for employer contributions, etc., that you can do either in a bulk task. Some practices are approaching it that way, or some are approaching it on review over the next course of your 12-month review period with clients. But it's got all checkboxes there, so you can make sure that you'll be aware of the various things that are migration related. And also, if you need particular links, so for example, updating employers with the new Panorama Super account details, there's a form there. You click on that, it'll take you straight through to that form, so you don't have to go searching for any of that information. So recommendation from other practices that have been through this is just allowing ample time in your diary for that first week of migration, so the week commencing the 21st of June, just to check through, as I said, some of those things we've talked about, check through some of your accounts, clients' accounts, fix up anything that may not have come across, or address any queries that you may have, and give yourself time, rather than having as much time as you can have, rather than having a week full of reviews to be trying to get through as well. The way that your practice has been set up in Panorama in terms of your account permissions and advisor structures, visibility over your client accounts, and who can see what, advisor groups, etc. There's a really diverse and flexible approach from Panorama in terms of making sure that everybody in your practice that needs to be involved with the client or client group can be on all through the one login, without having to have a whole series of different logins. So important that that's set up correctly. If you're concerned about that or not sure about that, if you're new to Panorama, then please, by all means, get in touch with your BDM or with client relations, depending on who your contact is with BT, and make sure that that's all set up and correct. Clients will get their BT Panorama registration email. As I said, they start to go out from that Tuesday following the weekend, and so if you get your email out to clients before that, on the Monday, perhaps, when you get confirmation from us, then they're expecting that. Some practices do actually send before the weekend, do send an email to their clients, just reminding them that the migration's occurring and that they can expect to get some email contact from BT over the next week. Updating the details with the relevant third parties we've talked about, particularly for those enduring rollovers, regular rollovers for insurance purposes, but also superannuation contributions, etc., and other direct credits that are set up. And then the final thing is just there's a wealth of Panorama training resources all available on the hub. Is access to get through to them through the BT Academy. And there's a whole stack of videos that can be watched in your time when it works for you. This migration webinar, for example, as with all the previous webinars, have also been recorded, so you can go back and have a look at these if there's something that you wanted to refresh your memory on from today's session or previous sessions. But have a look through those. There's a good one in there. Dave Giltrap presents in terms of, this is how I used to do it on RAP. How would I do that now on Panorama if you're brand new to Panorama? Because it is a different way of doing things. It's certainly a digital and contemporary platform, and Australia's leading contemporary platform and largest contemporary platform. So there's a few new things and efficiencies and services that are available to you. So have a look through those training resources, and as always, give us a call. Okay. So just further to that, what support is available to you, because there is a lot of information and then there's a lot to digest, and we understand that. And this is not the only thing going on in your practices, and we're very aware of that. So what we want to do is support you through this migration. What we want to do is get you through this process from getting your clients from RAP, which has been a leading platform for 20 plus years now in the Australian marketplace, across to Panorama, which, as I said, is the leading contemporary platform in the market. In the Australian market. And what we want to do is move your clients across successfully for you, make sure you're all established and set up, and then show you the why. So why Panorama? What's the benefits? How does it actually benefit my practice, my business, my clients? And we're really excited about being able to show you that why pretty much from July onwards this year if you're new to Panorama. But how do we support you? There's a few channels in which we support you, which we'll just jump to that next slide. Thanks, Matt. Perfect. So the briefing sessions, we talked about that. BT Academy, it just delivers the right support to help you and your teams, both with migration, but just in general with Panorama as well. The functionality, the features, the benefits, the digital consent, the award-winning app that the vast majority of traffic now goes through in terms of being able to see all those things online. For your clients, but certainly register for BT Academy training, the on-demand modular courses, and all the support collateral. And as I said, how did you do it on RAP? How do you do it on Panorama? What does my client see? Some tips and hints for a great experience. And we suggest that you use those through the BT Academy and training sessions. The briefing sessions, as I said, have a look through this one. You can recap because we will be recording it, previous sessions as well, all available to you for you to access in your time when it works with you and your team. Call our team. We have the largest distribution support team in Australia, built to support you because we've been doing this for decades in terms of working with advisors to build your business. That's what we exist for, to help you deliver those platform benefits and features through efficiencies through to your clients. So either client relations or your BDM contact or whoever it is that you regularly contact with BT, call us. We're a big team, we're here, and we're absolutely geared up and ready to help you get your clients and get your business through this migration, solve any point in time problems, pebbles in the shoe, so to speak, as one advisor described to me the other day, solve those point in time problems to then be able to deliver you the long-term benefits of this digital platform we call BT Panorama. Panorama training, we talked a bit about that as well. There's good information available to you, so please dial into that with the Academy as I suggested. But you can access all of that through the digital hub, bt.com.au with /panorama migration. So you can have a look through those. The chatbot is a really interesting tool as well. We've had some good feedback from that. And the benefit of that is, of course, it's 24/7. So it'll guide you through that, and also the guided journeys using the Walk Me technology, which is the Show Me How button located in the bottom right-hand corner on Pano for real-time on-screen instruction as you're going through it. When you need help the most is when you're actually in the system itself. So good opportunities in there. Blue, a nickname for the chatbot, you can click on the chat icon, communicate with Blue, the electronic chatbot, straight away. And at any point, you're getting those consistent compliant responses from them. But at any point, if it's still you're not sure or whatever, then it can absolutely click to chat service during the business hours. So 24/7 for online, and through business hours, you can click and talk to an actual person, which will help you through. So quite a bit of support there available. Please utilise all of that. Please go into the digital hub. We'll make sure on that front page for the migration hub that we have, absolutely, we'll show you the address in a moment. We absolutely have all of the new information, the new communication, the live changes and amendments that are going through as we run through this final, fourth and final migration tranche on the 19th and 20th of June. Okay, so we've got a couple of questions, which I'll just refer to. There's the I'm joined by Gary Burford, as I said today. If you can see Gary in the top part of your screen there, and we'll look at some of those questions as they've come through. But hopefully, I've addressed a few of them today through the session. So we'll have a look and address those now for you. And you can see that migration hub address there, bt.com.au/panorama migration. Please visit that and use all of those tools. Gary, just a question there from Graham Ali. What about the clients who don't have email or don't use the technology that they've been fine to use that, to not have that on RAP? How have we facilitated that with moving to Panorama?
Sure. So there's really only 3 scenarios that we have on Panorama that definitely require an email or mobile, and for each of those we've got workarounds in place, manual forms basically that can be completed as an alternative for clients who don't have an email and mobile. So we're comfortable everything can be catered for. The other thing to note is if you've got a client on RAP that has requested paper reporting, all those preferences carry across to Panorama as well, so they'll continue to receive paper reporting where they don't have an email as well.
Excellent, thank you. There's a fee consent request there, Rob. Rob Ross has put that in. Rob, I'll take that offline. We'll come back to you post this seminar and get in contact with you just to answer those queries for you. Charmaine's just got a question. Gary, perhaps you could address this one as well. It's a really good question. For those pending trades, how are they going to be treated in this final tranche? Because it is the final tranche, specifically say to trades which settle monthly. How are we managing those in-flight transactions?
Sure. Yes, that is a great question, Charmaine. So we'll be taking them across we're trying to clear all the trades before the Friday, before the migration weekend, but where we can't, we'll take it across and settle those trades in Panorama after migration.
Excellent. Thank you. And here we go. Hi team, our clients still say unscheduled for migration, but I assume they'll migrate if this is the final tranche. Deb, you're right. We will update that from Deborah McWilliam. We will update the list on the client scheduling list on the desktop, but you're absolutely right. All clients being migrated, everyone in RAP will go across in this final tranche. Even old closed accounts with small amounts in them, or illiquid funds and assets, they'll be getting communication, and advisors who do have accounts in that scenario will be aware of those as we communicate with you via that. But yeah, every single account will be migrated across in this final tranche. I think they've made it easy for us today, Gary. I can't see any other questions there, which is hopefully a good sign that we've been able to address those throughout today's session. And of course, for many people, it will be not the first tranche that they've gone through. Just a question for Andrew. Will pension payments due in June be impacted, Gary?
Yeah, so June pension payments will happen still. They'll be fine. They won't be impacted. If there is any delay, we'll notify, but we're not expecting a delay in pension payments at all for June.
Yep. Excellent. Okay. One of the things with the migration, just further that, Andrew, that you flagged there, that we're really conscious of is pension payments, because it's people's income, and we're very clear on that. And that absolute focus on priority. So, for example, any payments that are due or scheduled or required on the Monday for the outage, they'll be made as soon as practically possible. Typically, they're out first thing Tuesday morning when systems are up and running. But pension payments certainly take priority one for us, because we understand that that's people's income.
I should just add that pension payments for June are due the 16th of June, so they're planned to happen before the migration weekend for June.
Yep, excellent. Okay, so it would be the Wednesday before they should be shooting through. But we look at all of those things, regular investment plans, regular withdrawal plans, all of those regular dates either be done pre or post the migration and are all certainly managed in terms of observed and managed through the system to make sure they all occur as planned. Okay, well, we haven't got any other questions, so we'll leave it at that for today. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance. And as I said, if you want to catch up on a past masterclass or just recap on some of the information we've covered off today, this presentation deck and the recording of this will be made available on the Migration Hub there, bt.com.au/panorama migration, along with all the other really valuable information, FAQs that can hopefully answer that. And if they can't, then you know where we are. Please give us a call, jump online, and we will answer whatever we can, which is everything, as Gary's proven today. Thanks, Gary, for your time as well, joining us today. Thank you to everybody for your participation and your patience through this interruption in process. And we know it's a difficult time of the year, busy time of the year, and we really do thank you for your support and look forward to showing you the benefits of Australia's leading platform being BT Panorama. Thanks, everybody. We'll leave it at that and have a great day.